there is something I want to kind of talk on here. We mentioned briefly Respawn was working on a Star Wars first-person shooter, which, according to rumors, unconfirmed, all that, unannounced, it was going to be Mandalorian focused, not the Mandalorian, but a Mandalorian. So it could have been
Yep.
Boba Fett, could have been Din Djarin, could have been someone entirely different. Supposedly, it was going to be set while the Empire was still in control, so not during the timeline of the Mandalorian show. But basically, it was going to be a first-person shooter where you were a bounty hunter, you had a jetpack, you had cool gizmos and gadgets like grappling hooks and flamethrowers and rocket darts and spike boots, and I could keep listing all the stuff on Boba Fett's costume. You get the idea. And you were going to run around and capture bad guys in space. Sounded like a pretty good time. Sounded like, something that really it shouldn't have been too hard to figure out. And, Respawn makes it wasn't even going to be open world. It was going to be like, a bunch of linear levels. You go fight the bad guys there. You do wall running because you got, spike boots and a jetpack. And it's canceled. And the thing that is just making me a little bit crazy as, someone who's always loved Boba Fett specifically, but I like a lot of different space bounty hunters. It seems like it's impossible to make a space bounty hunter game without some level of just weird, I feel like more space bounty hunter games have not come out than have come out. And we can talk about this. So there's the big one, obviously, in addition to, the Mandalorian FPS is Star Wars 1313, which was shown off. It basically looked like a Uncharted in the bowels of Coruscant. And then later it came out that was going to be a Boba Fett game where you basically, you sort of Metroidvania your way up to having the full set of, Mandalorian gadgets. That got nuked along with LucasArts, which is a drag. And that never saw the light of day aside from, footage that people leaked online, which actually looked pretty cool.
That was one of the first significant heartbreaks for modern Star Wars fans who love video games. Like that one hurt, right? That was like, felt like a slam dunk, looked like it was heading in the right direction. Setting was incredible, super exciting stuff. It was also like, it was combining a bunch of stuff that was immensely popular at the time. Third person action game with platforming and climbing, that was all the rage, right? That one hurt. That one really stung a lot.
Yeah, that was a super bomb bad time, and not in a good way, just to see that. But it was also weird because the way they revealed it, nothing shown in the sort of early E3 demo indicated that it was about Boba Fett or Mandalorians. Like it was just sort of these generic dudes shooting each other in space, which, looked really cool, but maybe it would have gotten a little more attention if, it had been, an iconic, cool helmet guy in the forefront. But, obviously that was also a sort of a casualty of, Disney scooping up Lucasfilm.
Mm-hmm.
The other big one that was especially like heartbreaking for me was the original Prey 2, which was shown off. That was going to be Bethesda published. There was the first Prey, which had you getting abducted by aliens and like fighting aliens in like a spaceship. And this one was going to be, I think you were the same guy, but you had been like, you were working as a bounty hunter in space. So you would run around and you'd hunt bounties in space as a space bounty hunter, which sounds like a pretty sick idea for a game. And it was far enough along that they had, I don't know if it was, I can't remember if it was playable. I don't think it was playable, but it was definitely a vertical slice. Like it was not a CG trailer and a logo. It was like, here's what the game looks like in action. And I remember seeing it at E3 2011 and being like I saw it immediately after Skyrim. And I think I was about equally excited for both of them, which is saying something. Do you remember this, guys?
Yes. Yeah. This was, incredibly cool looking. Lost the time. Gone.
It would have been, I don't know. Yeah.
I don't get it. So the only bounty hunter game we're able to get is one that is just filled with humor and high on life. We can't get any serious bounty hunter games. Is that what's going on?
Apparently, and I was again, the curse extends to High on Life as well. High on Life for that actually honestly reminded me a ton of what I wanted Prey 2 to be. And that was a really fun game. And about 20 minutes after it came out, all of the controversy around Justin Roiland, popped off. And like that would be one thing if it was like, oh, he put his name on it, but he put his name on it was like he founded the studio. It was all his like designs, and he voiced the gun. He voiced the main, which is like it's kind of hard to like remove the, the artist from the art or whatever. In that case,
I think we should let your dog do it. I think your dog should voice the gun.
he's a huge Justin Roiland fan.
We did get Star Wars Bounty Hunter, which is I believe you can play that in PS5. That's I want to say, what is that, a PS2 game?
That was a 2002 PlayStation 2 and GameCube game.
With starring Django?
That was Django. That was released alongside Attack of the Clones. It was sort of, this is like the only one we've gotten. And it's like kind of, it's fine. It's all right. Like I think when it came out, everyone's like, this is pretty okay. But that was also sort of in the peak of LucasArts putting out much more capital L licensed games.
Yeah.
You know, like the Star Wars had like a kind of deep bench of like, these are legitimately good games that happen to be licensed games. And then
and
around the time the prequels came out, they started making, you know, some super bombast
to
stuff.
add to that, Max, there was a statement in the EA layoffs and cancellations the other day that they were going to be moving away from externally licensed games and focus just on the sort of like internal IPs and stuff they have. So like, you know, for years they were paying the FIFA license and stuff like that. They had the exclusivity on the Star Wars license for a decade. That's opened up. And so like I think that like, and the thing is when a lot of times when you see licensed games disappear from digital storefronts, I believe it was a couple of years ago, there was like an Activision Ninja Turtles and Transformers games that you just woke up and they were just not there anymore. It's because they didn't feel like it was worth paying for the license anymore versus the amount of income that or revenue that game was bringing in. And so like, if that's the case, then that's even less of a chance of something like this happening. And you and I were talking earlier about,
again, this is not just exclusive to Star Wars games. This is not just a Star Wars problem, because there's also Metroid Prime 4 version 1.0. Yeah. That game got announced and then it got, you know, taken back into Frozen and Carbonite or whatever. You know, they went back to the drawing board to redo the whole thing. And that's Metroid has like everyone loves Metroid, except for people who have their wallets out at the store when it's time to buy video games, apparently, or the people at Nintendo who greenlight projects, because there's all these different, like, you know, there's a bunch of abandoned Metroid, you know, derelict ships, if you will. There was the Metroid Prime 64 that never came out. There was, you know, I think there've been a handful of like, you know, just pretty much prototypes that got thrown together that just never.
The great story of Metroid Dread was that was a canceled game for the longest time, or a rumored to be canceled game, rumored to be in development, and Nintendo basically brought it back. And like for the longest time, Metroid Dread on message boards was like, you know, this is the next definitive 2D Metroid game, the sort of spiritual successor to Super Metroid. Vanished for years and then came out. So it did exist eventually, but yeah, Prime 4 is I think we can call it development hell.
Yeah, no, exactly. But also, Metroid is like Samus is a bounty hunter in title. That's her job description. But she just kind of shoots stuff, you know, like there's not really any capturing or bounty hunting, which I feel like is a really, like, that's a cool mechanic. Like that kind of works. Like, you know, I think they do it in like Red Dead Online, and like it's a cool idea. It also feels very like video gamey. Like, go out and find this person and bring them back. Like, then someone's going to try to stop you along the way, which is what the Respawn game was going to try to do. The other one, there's others that came out. Like there was Oddworld Stranger's Wrath, which was a huge commercial flop. I think that was like it was like sold like 600,000 copies or something, which was way under what it was supposed to. There was Prey, the first one from 2006, which again was like very loosely bounty hunter-ish. That I think was a commercial success, and, you know, people received pretty well, but it also spent like a decade in development. So that was almost like a proto Duke Nukem Forever. That was the very tail end of 3D Realms being around. And it, yeah, I don't know. It's just like, I feel like, why is it so hard to make a game where you like go out and catch aliens and bring them back and get money to upgrade your jetpack or whatever? It's just seems kind of bizarre.
You and I were talking about Star Wars Outlaws, which is a game where you're being bounty hunted. Like they have the pucks and everything, and they go like, there she is, go get her. But you're not doing that. You're getting away from people who are trying to do that, which is,
so it's a curse of space bounty hunters.
Mate, I think we should just outlaw bounty hunting games in general. I don't know.
Okay,
how about that?
It's working for you, Akeem. Like it's happening.
Although I gotta say, so I know you asked me this yesterday, Max. What are you playing? I actually just finished playing. I just rolled credits. I don't know why it took me so long to beat this game, but I just beat High on Life, and I played the DLC. It made me realize just how much I really I love this type of game, like bounty hunting in general. And so like us bringing this conversation up made me realize that, wow, we really don't have something like this. But also I think it's partially because of the humor in High on Life. Like I don't know if you all remember the game MDK2. It was very reminiscent of the humor that from that particular video game. Like this, you know, it takes place in space. It's just like these weird and quirky characters. And then like the bounty hunting aspect of it it was really unique. And, you know, us bringing this conversation up, looking at this Mandalorian game, I can't believe that and how far along that they were with this. And it's just being canceled. Like you have like this very recognizable IP. We have like 2 seasons of Mandalorian, or how many do we have now? Three seasons of the Mandalorian. So you would think that, you know, this would be prime for success. Like the fact that it's canceled, and it sounds like they had like a working version of it out there in the ethers is just unbelievable to me. It's honestly it's
Hey man,
ridiculous. I think it
EA,
would've been a
dude,
slam dunk.
they love to cancel Star Wars games.
They
That's
really
just a
do.
thing. That's a thing
It's
they
one of
do
their
over
favorite
there.
things to do over there.
Yeah.
You know that and sell gambling apparatuses to children. Top two favorite things to do over at EA. No, like I loved High on Life because I think it captured a lot of, like you said, the humor was really good, but also like when you watch the first season of The Mandalorian, he would go to sort of arrest people or bring them in, and it was like sometimes there would be this big kind of standoff, but other times it would just be like this I'll pay you money, help me get out of this. Like there's there was a lot of wiggle room there, and there's a lot of comedy in terms of these like kind of like low life criminals or mid-tier criminals doing what they could to get wiggle out of the problems. And I think High on Life really captured that, and it also threw in a bunch of like really awesome Metroidvania stuff. Like it was the closest we've gotten to a new Metroid Prime game in a very long time, right? Like it had like double jumps and jetpacks, and it had weird lassos you could grapple hook on and stuff, like a bunch of like it just really did a lot well. And yeah, it's a bummer to see a Mandalorian game get canceled, because it's like Disney proper just moved their entire theatrical slate around to fast track a Mandalorian movie as their next big theatrical Star Wars film. And I don't know how long that's going to take. I don't know how long this game was going to take, but there was a time for a very long time where a movie would come out and we would also get a game to go with it. Those games weren't always the best, but still, like there's a lot of ships passing in the night now. We talked about Suicide Squad earlier today, and it's like that, that theoretically could have launched against two different movies that are both way in the past tense at this point. So it didn't even have any sort of zeitgeist to latch onto, and so yeah, it's a bummer. It's an absolute bummer. It makes me sad every time a Star Wars game gets canceled. It shocks me to see one get canceled from a studio that shipped two successful Star Wars games already. Like this isn't like one of those like.
I mean, going back to what we're saying about like games being like too polished and too ambitious, like maybe if Respawn was making a game that looked like High on Life, maybe if it was kind of cartoony, if it was like looked more like the PS2 bounty hunter game than trying to be this photorealistic, uncanny valley leaping, next gen looking thing. But obviously, AAA games have to have a certain level of polish. But yeah, I don't know. I'd be kind of down if it was just like, hey, it's sort of a what I don't get it, because some of the most successful Star Wars stuff looks like PS2 games. The cartoons, the Clone Wars, Rebels, Bad Batch, all of that stuff looks like a video game, but the video games are trying to look like the movies, but the movies aren't even coming out. And they don't even make the video. They cancel video games. So what are we doing here? Yeah. I don't know. What I got to do? Read young adult novels to find out about bounty hunters?
They're shooting the movies in like a glorified Best Buy now too, or the shows. Like they're just like, hey, get in front of the big TV screens and pretend you're on Tatooine again.
They make the shows in Unreal. What's going on over here?
The games are trying to ape a universe that was established in the 70s that was made of clay and tarps. Like it's like.
Like so many video game characters are ripoffs of Boba Fett. Like why can't we just get a Boba Fett game? I don't. He's got a jetpack. He's got a grappling hook. He's got flamethrowers and lasers. Like it's the most video gamey ass man imaginable. It's like an action figure that has double jumps. Like why can't they just make a video game? I don't get it. I don't know why it's so hard. It's exhausting.
They're making Outlaws. I mean, Ubisoft is making Outlaws, which is, I have faith in it. I think the game looks phenomenal. Ubisoft just shipped the game with boats in it that took them like 3 presidents to make, and so I'm not exactly confident that Outlaws will launch this year, but like there is a single player Star Wars games in the works. I don't know if Respawn's going to finish their Jedi trilogy too, right? Like
I hope they do. They got it. They have to. Anyway,